video on something that I need to have a play around with. So I've got a customer and they want to like a 1940s themed do, so they kind of want food to kind of match. I don't think the food was particularly very good in the 1940s. And I kind of immediately thought, and I thought they want a cheap function as well, surprise, surprise. So I immediately thought like cottage pie. But they did have this idea of doing meatloaf, and I was kind of like, maybe not meatloaf. I don't know how well that would go down. We've kind of got to balance what people want a cheap function, but what they also want value for money. And I think like meatloaf kind of wouldn't kind of be in the wheelhouse of what a lot of people kind of wanted. But I kind of thought, well, let's have a play around. So, and then I was kind of thinking meatloaf, no. But then I was kind of thinking like, so I don't know if YouTube is going to get me in trouble for this. I don't know if this word will get me in trouble. But there is like, no, I don't have to use that word. I might put it in the description. But there's West Country in this country, which are like offal and mince and breadcrumbs and egg all mixed together and then held together with caul fat, which is the lining of an animal's stomach, which holds it all together. And then you poach these little, like poached stock roast, these kind of meaty dumpling type things. And then I was kind of thinking, oh, well, I can't use that word. I think it's a bit offensive. But that type of thing. But then I was also kind of thinking there used to be something called savoury ducks or penny ducks, which was like a little bit of meat bulked out with a stuffing mixture. So like a herb and a breadcrumb and herb stuffing, which you would then add meat to, and then kind of make it up and like a fake meat type of thing. So I was kind of thinking, well, we might just not to have something. Lots of people don't eat offal, so they wouldn't want like an offally type of dumpling. But I kind of thought, well, let's just have a play around and we'll adapt my meatball recipe, or the recipe that's not my meatball recipe, it's a recipe that I use for meatballs. And I've got some sausages in the freezer, so I've defrosted those, and I bought some mince. I bought two types of mince. I bought the 25% fat mince, and then I bought the 10% fat mince. And I kind of thought what we'll do is we'll do the sausages with the 10% fat mince, and then we'll just do the mixture without any pork in it. We'll just do it with the beef mince that's got more fat in it, and make up two separate kind of batches. That's kind of what I thought. I'm not going to put in. Normally I'd put a bit of onion in, but I'm not going to put any onion in. I'm not going to put any herbs in. It's just going to be like a basic type of meatloaf stroke meatball type of thing. So there's about 300 grams worth of sausages. Now, I think what I would actually use, I don't think I'd buy sausages. If this works out and it's suitable, I don't think I'd actually buy sausages. I think what I'd do is I think I'd buy cooking bacon, and then I'd mince that and then add that to the beef mince. I think that's what I'd do. So there's about 40 grams worth of breadcrumbs there. The dried breadcrumbs, I think probably 100 grams worth of breadcrumbs if they weren't dried. The breadcrumbs need to go in because they're going to soak up the fat and make it more delicious. So, and then about half an egg. So I've got some more bread rolls and I've got some more egg, but we'll save those for the more fattier mince. And then it's just a simple case of mixing all this together. So it's not authentic 1940s at all. I don't really know what people ate in the 1940s. Probably a lot of vegetables and not much meat. Probably the only meat that they got was probably rabbit. So I don't actually think doing something authentic from the 1940s would be that good. I don't think it'd be that nice. Now I need to work that in a bit more, don't we? So, but I think sausages are. Well, sausages in the UK were traditionally all the offcuts of meat minced up with rusk, which would be stale bread, and then seasoning, and that's why sausages were cheap in the UK. But governments have decided that you can't. Sausages need to be a certain percentage of meat, so you don't get cheap sausages anymore, and you can't put what they would class as reclaimed meat in sausages anymore, which was the meat that was scraped off the bones, like mechanically scraped off the bones, and then that meat would be then processed. It would go in sausages and it goes in pies and all kinds of things, but there was this outcry in the country that this stuff was horrible. The meat itself is not horrible, but the process that they did after they removed the meat from the bones to reform it into a meat shapes, like turkey twizzlers and all that kind of stuff, that process was horrendous, and the chemicals that they had are not very good for you at all. So that's meatball number 1. This will be meatball number 2. So there's more fat in this mince, but there'll be more fat in those sausages. So it's kind of a do it two ways. Like, we don't need to buy sausage. Like, we don't need to put if this mince. I'll put this in the bin before I forget. If this mince with the high fat content works out, then you don't need to breadcrumbs. We need to season. Damn. You don't need the fat from the sausages or the bacon, because it's already got the fat in there, which is generally why you add something like pork to meatballs, because you want the fat content of the sausages or the pork mince. I've never seasoned every, so I need some free running salt, and then I'll have to re-season the one at the back as well. And of course I should have want pepper. Ah. Quickly wash my hands, and then we can grind some pepper in. Grind some pepper into that one as well. So we'll put the pepper in now and mix it all together. And then I'm going to leave these. I don't really want to do a loaf as such. Let's season that one at the back. I don't want to do a loaf as such. I was kind of thinking more larger meatballs, or flat kind of meatballs, like not like a burger, but well, we'll see when we get there. So let's do that. So what I was kind of thinking, like portion wise, if it's like a meatball like that, which is not kind of what you want, but I thought we'd flatten them down a bit, and then we'll see how they turn out. What does that weigh? And we'll get an idea of portions, and if people will be happy with something like that. That's about 180 grams, so let's make it 200 grams. Yeah, it's 200 grams. So that's that. So we'll do the same. And I'm going to poach it. We're going to grill them to get them crispy and brown on top. And then I kind of thought, and then we'll poach them gently in the oven in some beef stock. And then we might actually serve them with some caramelised onions. Maybe that'd be kind of quite nice. I'll fix that one today. So we'll do that. Salt mixed in, kind of ish. So yeah, we'll brown them and then we'll poach them in the oven in some beef stock, kind of whatever I've got kicking about. That's about 200. Which is normally a good idea portion wise. So 200 grams worth of meat is normally about right for a portion size. So, and then I kind of thought what we'll do is we won't do. I kind of thought, well, like, if we do it in a larger patty like that, and then we'll poach that in the oven like that, and then we can always just cut them into portions, and then we'll serve it with some mashed potatoes. But I'm going to have them tonight, so I'm not going to serve mine with mash. I'm going to have it with a bit of polenta, I think. But I kind of thought, like, maybe that. So, but anyway, they need to set up in the fridge first. So it needs, the breadcrumbs need time to kind of rehydrate themselves. So I'm just washing my hands, a bit noisy. So the breadcrumbs need time to soak up any excess liquid in there. I have grilled these to get some colour on them. I think You could fry them, but I'm grilling them. So I'm going to grill on both sides. Just remember which is which. So that's the one with the sausage meat in. So turn over and grill the other side. That's the one with sausage meat in. That's the one that was just all beef, and that's the one that was just all beef as well. So we'll grill them on either side, and then I've decided what I'm going to cook it in. I'll cook it in that dish. It sends up a bit of washing up, so that's grilling. And now, so I've always got experiments in the cupboard we used for and done with other things. These are past experiments. Oh, well, we're not going to be using that because it's starting to go a little bit mouldy. So, should have checked on that beforehand. That was some dried out stock, but it's just got a little bit of mould on that. Maybe we should actually use... Yeah, we're going to boil it. If you only got one bit of mould, we'll use that. I'll use it. It's for me, so I'm not really bothered. Not really bothered. And these are some like homemade stock cubes. So I think we'll use that for the liquid. Now obviously I'm going to use these homemade stock cubes, and part of that hasn't got a bit of mould on. I'll debate if I'm going to use that. So we'll see if those melt relatively easy in some hot water, and then we'll have like that was a gelatinous stock, so that was actually a meat stock, and those were vegetable stock cubes. Although they look meaty, but they're actually vegetable stock cubes. So I'll boil up some water and see if they melt relatively easily, and then we'll use that for the cooking liquid. Otherwise, I would use OXO cubes. Have I got any OXO cubes? No, I haven't got any OXO cubes. OXO is my preferred stock cube of choice, but those would do. So some kind of beefy stock cube to cook them in, and probably a little bit of tomato puree. But let's just boil up some water and see if these melt easily enough. Right, so just add a little bit of water to these preserved stocks, and it's working. So the jelly one, the gelatinous one that was made from meat stock, is melting, so it's turned into a stock. That's okay. The little bit of mould growth was white mould, which is fine, you don't need to worry about that. It's black mould that you really need to be concerned about. But white mould is normally yeast, so that any kind of boiling water is going to have killed that, any kind of growth. So let's give these a taste and see what we think. Yeah, these are melting, but they're just taking a little bit of time. But they're still melting, just a little bit more effort is needed to get those properly melted. How's that taste? Nice of that. That's nice. And what's this one like? Taking time to melt, but certainly preserved. I just probably need to get the blender in there just once they're soft, but they're going to work, I think. How's this taste like? Nice, nice. They will. We'll blend all that up properly. We'll have them together actually, and then we'll blend it up, and that's what we'll cook everything in. See, it's just got that bit of jelly down the bottom of there, so just rinse that out, get the blender in, and then we're going to cook it low and slow. So 150 degrees for 3 hours, something like that. 3 hours, that should be about time. What's it, about 3 o'clock now, so we're ready by 6, something like that, which will be just in time for me coming home from swimming, and I'll be absolutely ravenous. So, don't need any more explanation than that, do we? No. Right, it's had over 3 hours, so let's have a look. It smells good, but that's down to the stock. So let's have a look. Do a plate, couldn't we? It's alright, isn't it? That's alright. So by not being submerged, it's crisped up on top. So it should be nice and tender all the way through, which is which. So that's the one with sausage meat in. So that's the one with sausage meat in, and that's just the plain meat one with the egg and the breadcrumb. Now we weighed them at 200 grams, didn't we? So let's just weigh them and see how much weight they've lost. So this is a sausage meat one. It's not bad for a portion, that. So that's gone down to 160 grams. So I don't know what kind of interest that is. Now, really, because this was 200 grams, it'll probably lost more because of the fat. Yeah, right, so that's down at 148. So that's lost more, so that's down to the fat. So it probably could do with some more breadcrumbing to kind of counteract that. Why have I put them back in there? I should be tasting them, shouldn't I? Anyway. Right, plate there. No, I'll cut into, I'm going to take a picture, so I'll cut into these. I think it'd be nice with bacon mince. Burning myself, obviously. Yeah, chefs haven't got asbestos hands. It's just not caring that it hurts and building up a tolerance. So this is sausage meat one. That's nice as that. And this is just the plain mince one. So so I don't know if it's because I know that one's got a sausage meat in it that I can taste it. So I think in a blind tasting, one against the other, I'd be able to tell. But if it wasn't there and I was just given that one, would I be able to tell? Probably not. I think the sausage meat one's nicer. So I think putting bacon mince in it instead of sausage meat, I think that'd be a good idea. So, all now depends on what the customer kind of wants, doesn't it? Nice bit of fat come out of that. There's a nice bit of fat. What's the juice like? Oh yeah, I put in a tin of tomatoes as well. Just for that umami flavour. That's lovely. That's lovely. So, it works. I'll suggest it to the customer, I think, but we'll probably end up going with something like cottage pie. But I don't know what we'd actually call these. Savoury ducks, I think. Savoury ducks. I would need to be a little bit bigger for portion size. I don't really want to give two. But I've cooked some polenta. Well, cornmeal. Is that what polenta is? I can never quite remember. We'll put it on a plate and then we'll kind of see how it looks for a portion size. Right, so I've just thickened up a little bit of juice with some gravy granules. Nothing fancy, so if it looks well, it's alright, isn't it? That's alright. I mean, it's polenta, so it's very. I'll put cheese in the polenta, so it's very yellowy. And I put butter in and chicken stock cube. Polenta's lovely. How does that work? I'd serve it with mashed potato and carrots, I think. Lovely as that. Lovely as that. I've even thought up some leftover ideas for it as well. You could cube it up and put it into like a pasta bake. I think that'd be nice. But anyway, that's delicious. From my point of view of success, we'll see if the customer's interested in it. Just as a little bit of an add-on, let's do something with these meatloaf leftovers. So I have taken some of the meatloaf, cubed it up small, and fried it until it's crispy in some of that delicious fat from the top of the cooking juices. And then I have cooked some pasta. I've just turned it off because I was doing something else. So just get it back to temperature. I've just cooked some pasta and I've got some pasta water in there. And we're going to form a sauce. So think of it a little bit like a carbonara type of thing, but I'm not going to put any egg in. We're just going to get this hot again, and then we're going to grate some cheese in. I've seasoned it already. So then we're going to grate some cheese in, form a sauce with the cooking liquid, the fat from the top of the cooking liquors, cooking juice, and the cheese, which will form the sauce. It's cheap pasta, so it won't be forming some kind of amazingly silky sauce. If you want an amazingly silky sauce, you have to use a better quality pasta. This is just the cheap stuff from the supermarket. Because my philosophy kind of is, you know, just because we're on a budget doesn't mean we can't have nice food. We normally just have to work a little bit harder. So, grate cheese into the pasta, and there should be enough residual heat in the pasta and the cooking liquid and the fat to melt the cheese and to form a sauce. So if you kind of think of like a white sauce, and like a bechamel sauce, you've got a liquid, you've got a fat, and then you've got some kind of thickening agent. So a fat in the form of some butter, some flour as the thickening agent, and the liquid is the milk. So it's the same kind of principle. The thickening liquid is the starch that comes out of the pasta. The thickening agent is the starch that comes out of the pasta. The fat is the fat from the cooking juices, and the cheese is the cheesy saucy bit. Yeah, and and the liquid from the pasta water is the liquid part of it. If that makes sense, it kind of makes sense to me. Well, it's the way I made sense of it, like how to get this to actually work and why it worked, and that was my thoughts on it. It was basically a deconstructed cheese sauce, and we put it back together in a slightly different way. Now the heat is off. The heat needs to be off, otherwise it will curdle the cheese, make it go stringy and not very nice. But it needs a little bit more liquid. Where's the kettle? So a little bit more liquid. Hot water just to thin it down slightly. Don't want to put cold in because that'll make everything congeal. And just move things around. As we move things around, more starch will come out of the pasta. You want quite a young hard cheese if you're going to do this. It doesn't want to be a really old mature Parmesan or something like that. This is just the cheap stuff from the supermarket. So it's a hard Italian cheese, but it's not particularly very old, which means it melts just that little bit easier. So those are now like that. So it's, as you can see, it's formed a sauce. Not incredibly creamy, but that's because of the cheap pasta. That's not down to my techniques. So and then those crispy bits of meatloaf back in there. Move it all around. And there we go. Leftover meatball pasta as a added bonus onto the video. So it will make that meal go that even further. Let's just give it a taste. I'm sure it will be delicious because we cooked pasta in the fat from the meatloaf. And it's meat and pasta and cheese. What is there not to like about that? Nice delicious is that. Nice delicious. So meatloaf and what to do with leftovers. Yeah, so I'll probably have something like pasta, like a pasta bake at the weekend, and I'll do exactly the same with that leftover meatloaf there. I will cube it up, fry it, and then put it in some kind of pasta bake that I can just put in the oven, or like a lasagna or something like that. Just put it in the oven, forget about it while I go out, and it'll make that meal go even further. So